As Jose Mourinho sulks at Chelsea, cheerful Jurgen Klopp is bringing the joy back to Liverpool. The contrast between the two managers could hardly have been more acute this weekend, writes Jim Boardman. Jurgen Klopp's first league win as Liverpool boss should have seen praise pouring off the back pages, not just for the victory but for the manner of it and the evidence it provided of the massive difference the German has made to his new club in the space of just 3 weeks. Instead, the focus is all on his opposite number as the Mourinho meltdown continues. It might have been Halloween, but Christmas came early, and not just because the diva of a pantomime villain was doing all he could to take the spotlight. We've seen lots of little hints these past few weeks of what the Reds might be able to do under Klopp, but this weekend the wrapping paper was torn off and the shiny new, Liverpool way, German style, was there to enjoy. The demoralised Liverpool team of 4 weeks ago under Brendan Rodgers, one that seemed relieved with a point and to get games over and done with, is already a distant memory. Klopp has rejuvenated the squad he inherited and they demolished Jose Mourinho's miserable side with a relentless display of determination, teamwork and intelligence. It was all the more effective because it was guided by the well-thought-out tactics of their new boss, a man who remembers what football is really all about, something so many involved in the game have long since forgotten. Klopp isn't forgotten what this sport is all about, and now he is ensuring his players remember it too. Speaking in the build-up to this game, a very relaxed Klopp said, "We need to know that what we are doing is a game. It started as a game and it is still a game. But sometimes it looks only like it's work. And that's not allowed. And that's what I try to bring to a club. Until now, it was pretty successful. In other words, enjoy yourself. It's meant to be fun." It is of course still very early days in terms of judging whether Klopp's approach, and there's far more to it than boosting morale, will be as successful at Anfield as it was elsewhere, but so far so very good. Before Klopp's arrival it felt like forever since we could say Red's side was enjoying itself. In fact, it was probably Jose Mourinho who brought that kind of thing to an end at Anfield 18 months ago, when he parked his bus in front of Liverpool's title hopes with tactics that were effective but far from fun. A year later a miserable, depressed, Liverpool side deservedly got hammered 6-1 away to Stoke in a showing that should have seen the manager walk away rather than wait for the push. Not one player walked onto the pitch that day looking like they were in the job they all dreamed of doing as kids. Now look at Liverpool. Obviously they are going to be happy after beating Chelsea on their own patch by that scoreline, but it's not just at the end of matches that they'll look like they're really enjoying themselves. As much as any kid playing in the park, as rare as that is these days, and dreaming about beating Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Have any of Chelsea's players looked like they've enjoyed themselves at all this season? Do any of them remember that feeling of waking up in the morning absolutely desperate to get out and kick a ball? Klopp also said before the game, "I like learning more about people, I like to talk to people, and that's what I have to do the whole day. And the best thing there, in this job, is they all have the same hobby as I have. They're all football maniacs, and that's really great, and if you're not enough a football maniac, maybe I can help you to love this game a little bit more after this." Chelsea don't look like football maniacs, and apart from the fun that comes from laughing at his expense, Jose Mourinho is doing nothing to help anyone love the game. Liverpool's performance wasn't flawless, and nor would Klopp expect it to be, but he got the very best out of what remains a depleted squad. He didn't have a striker who was both 100% fit and experienced, so he left Benteke on the bench until later and used Firmino as something along the lines of a false nine. Some managers might have decided at 1-1 that a point was good enough, but Klopp decided all three would be much better and went for them. When it was time for Benteke to go off, it was Milner who made way, meaning Firmino was still around to make an impact. Later on, when it was time to give the still recovering Brazilian a rest, Klopp didn't play it safe. He brought another attacking player on, Jordan Iba. Lucas Leiva may well have been walking the tightrope that comes from being on a yellow card in a hostile ground, but Klopp stuck with him, a brave decision but a vital one. Such is the impact Lucas is once again making as a Liverpool player. Liverpool tooth and nail to get the ball back, and not because they just want to use the possession to stop the other side scoring, they want to use that possession to do damage. Klopp is teaching his players the lost art of getting forward and being a threat. At times it's coming from intricate passing, at times it's from a more direct ball, at times it's coming from the full-backs bombing down the pitch without worrying about the need to get back and cover. Alberto Mourinho made a mistake that led to Chelsea's opener, but his head wasn't down at all afterwards, as was demonstrated when he almost scored after racing the full length of the field only to see his shot blocked by the keeper's legs. This is exciting, honest football and a pleasure to watch. Yet all we seemed to hear about afterwards were refereeing decisions no more remarkable than those seen week in week out at other matches in this league. It helps Liverpool in some ways. Klopp won't be complaining too much if Liverpool's improvement does slip under the radar and attention is diverted away from his players, and it might help quell those crazy questions about Liverpool's league title chances this season, but it's sad that we still feel these sideshows are worthy of so much attention. Time wasting is one of those annoying parts of the game that referees rarely do enough to clamp down on, especially in stoppage time. And if Clattenburg decided to add the 30 seconds back on, it took Chelsea to take a free kick for offside in those 2 added minutes, he deserves praise for it. Perhaps if the home side had just got on with the game, the whistle would have gone exactly on 47 minutes and Felipe Coutinho would still be looking for his first goal since the opening day of the season. A yellow card offence one week is often a stern telling off the next, and a second yellow card usually needs to be that bit more nailed on than the first. That's football. Referees miss things, like strikers lashing out at defenders when both are lying on the floor. As frustrating as this can be, at least to those on the wrong end of the decisions, it's far better than having robotic referees who fail to take into account the occasion itself and show as much compassion and feeling as traffic wardens. Klopp is the long-awaited antidote to the solemnity of an English game that has taken itself too seriously for far too long. As Mourinho was channeling Whitney Houston outside the dressing room post-match, he had nothing to say. Jurgen was still in the dressing room with his players, no doubt hugging them all individually as he carefully summarized their good and bad bits from the game. He probably took the photos some of the players posted on social media later. Mourinho later mentioned he might watch the rugby afterwards, and if he did it, he'd have seen a New Zealand player give his medal away to a young fan, something we haven't seen since August when, funnily enough, Mourinho gave his medal away at Wembley after the Community Shield match against Arsenal. The difference between the two gestures was huge, and not just because Sonny Bill Williams' memento was a winner's medal rather than a consolation prize. Williams wasn't throwing his toys out of the pram. Klopp reacted to Liverpool conceding by gesturing to his players to get their heads up, the message being not to resign themselves to a feeling that the game was already lost. Mourinho reacts to setbacks by acting like his side have no chance of winning games because the referee, the FA and the rest of the world are against them, and instead of building a siege mentality his players seem to believe him, they act helpless. Instead of acting like a leader, Mourinho acts like a toddler who can't get his own way, and maybe it's time we all just ignored his tantrums, left him to his own devices and stopped giving his negativity so much airtime. Football is meant to be fun, and it can be far more enjoyable without these sideshows, as Jurgen Klopp is starting to prove. There are far better things to focus our attention on than a grown man acting like a spoiled child.